Okay, so welcome to Smoke and Snow Season 2, Episode 1. When we finished last time, our heroes had been exploring the realm of Dolmenwood, a strange fairy tale forest that had been cast into a sort of pocket dimension by the ancient sect of wizards known as the Druun in order to escape the ancient oncoming ice age. Our heroes discovered that the linchpin of their enchantment was a blade known as the Greensteel, apparently one of three blades, the Sun Sword, the Night Blade and the Greensteel, the Sun Sword having been possessed by Weimar for quite some time, and the Night Blade being possessed by a once ally, now potential enemy of theirs, seeking to secure the second sword so they might stand against the wielder of the Night Blade. After various adventures, and despite debating the danger that sort of pulling this linchpin out and unravelling this enchantment could cause, they defeated the Stone Guardian of the Greensteel and plucked it out from the enchanted stone circle where it rested. This had the immediate effect of the ley lines, which have been bent into strange shapes in order to fuel this enchantment and maintain the Dolmenwood in its eternal summer in this pocket dimension, began to unravel at a rapid pace. Taking their sword, the heroes hot-footed it back to the Wench Gate, the portal which leads out of the Dolmenwood, and burst through it. When they arrived on the other side, they emerged into what appeared to be a balmy late summer morning, which is strange given that Valkonnen has previously been shrouded in winter. But it appears that much has changed since they've been away. The realms have merged as this magic ran out of control, and as their eyes adjusted to the bright sunlight and the slightly warmer than they'd been used to temperatures, they saw a stone statue of themselves that had been erected at the edge of the clearing in the forest. When they examined it, brushing the moss off, they discovered that approximately 10 years had passed on the Valkonnen side since they went through the gateway, and the landscape appeared subtly different as they glanced around, and potentially there are wider changes that have occurred as a result of the realms merging back together. But we pick up with our heroes as they have emerged, stumbling out of this enchanted gateway into the Wolf Forest, a few days to the east of New Zealand, the village they helped settle on the southern shores of Valkonnen. As I say, it's a bright, sort of late summer, sunshiny day. As you look around, those who are more perceptive, and it's up to you players whether you notice this or not, those of you who look around, you immediately start to notice a few changes after you've looked at the statue. You can see that whereas previously the wolf forest was primarily a coniferous forest, when you look around now, you are standing in the dappled shades of mighty, thick-trunked oak trees that rise high into the sky above you, sort of blotting out a lot of the sun, just thin shafts of it shining through the canopy of the trees. As you look at the leaves, you see the colour has just started to change slightly from green, as though the first sort of wafts of autumn have just breathed gently on the leaves of these mighty oaks. The statue is in front of you. The portal you used to regain entry to Valkonnen, now dark, devoid of the magical energies that powered it, lies behind you. The forest is all around, however, unlike previously where it was silent save for the chirping of a few birds and the howling of the wolves which give the forest its name, it now appears to be almost replete with life. You can hear birds tweeting, animals chirping. Compared to the previous silence of this woodland, it's a veritable cacophony of sound that meets you as you stumble out of this gateway. So, over to you guys. as you all stumble out wearing whatever you were wearing when you were in Dolmenwood. Obviously, full plate armor in Wymar's case.
So the temperature's rised a few degrees, certainly, hasn't it?
Most definitely. Certainly to you, being used to the cold, being an ice walker, you immediately notice. For you, it's almost like you've stepped into a sauna, or just this waft of heat hits you.
Is this even warmer than a summer?
It's,
did I say?
On a sort of real world scale of things, we're talking about sort of like a temperate sort of late summer day. So it's not tropical temperatures, but obviously to you, who's used to the freezing Arctic temperatures, it feels very warm.
And I meant compared to the summer of this land before.
Oh, compared to the summer, the previous short summer of Valkonnen, it definitely feels warmer, like noticeably so. But like I say, it's not tropical.
No, but it's certainly different and sort of unnatural almost at first glance.
It's certainly not what you're used to.
Yeah, and we've basically just sort of run through the portal, haven't we? We've sort of just hot-footed it.
Yeah, you've basically
literally just arrived.
You ran through. You quickly saw the statue. You examined that, saw that it had the sort of carving on it. You know, like one day they may return. And you sort of worked out it was like roughly 10 years had passed, and then you sort of like started looking around, just like taking in your surroundings. And this is what you've seen. Like I say, it now appears that the Wolf Forest is this mighty oak forest rather than the sort of thin-leafed coniferous forest that you were previously in.
I shall. I'll look over to Malcolm, and I say, "I hope this sword that you carry was worth whatever's happened to our homeland."
As do I.
As he says that, Malcolm, you glance down at sort of taking in the details of the Greensteel for the first time, really, given your like hasty departure from Dolmenwood and the fight to retrieve it, and you see it as this long sort of steel made blade, but through the steel blade are these fine sort of almost like thread like traceries of some sort of emerald green substance that like almost like little tiny veins, or like the traceries on leaves that run down the length of the blade.
Okay. I guess only time will tell, friend Brock, whether we have made the right choice.
I mean, we hadn't even had a chance to even look at it properly until now, like John said. So, I mean, have you got any idea of? I mean, is it similar to the Sunblade?
To be honest, when you look at them, so obviously like Weimar could take out the Sun Sword as well. When you look at the two of them, they look distinctly different. I mean, his is made out of a sort of strange crystalline substance. Yours is made out of steel with these green traceries through it. If you didn't know there was a link between them, there's nothing overtly in the appearance of them that would tell you that. They're not like they've all been made from the same sort of mold, so to speak.
And since you've carried this weapon, have you had any of these strange talkings that curse Weimar?
No, nothing at all. It's just a fancy sword.
Well, perhaps time will tell.
Indeed.
Should we see what has become of Lucille Land?
As they're having this discussion, Quentin, where are you? What are you up
to? I'm inspecting this old portal we've just come through.
Okay.
Because you said it's turned darker.
Yeah, it's not so much the actual material that makes it up has turned darker, but obviously previously it was lit by the sort of energies of the portal.
Yeah.
Whereas now it seems to be like inert again.
And I'm also just looking around the forest and seeing, you know, how much has it changed since we last traversed here.
Okay, roll me a d6.
It's a 2.
splendid. Okay, hopefully you can all see that map I've just moved you onto, or you will be able to shortly. I see it's still loading for some of you.
Thankfully, you know, I've not really known the village much, so it doesn't really bother me what's happened to it. I just want to go and put my head down for a bit and try and figure out.
Okay, so as you're sort of thinking about that and you're having a bit of a look around, Quentin, like everyone else is talking, they don't appear to have noticed this, but you hear the sounds of like rapid footsteps running through the undergrowth to the south of you, and as you look to the south, you see a man wearing sort of strangely fashioned clothes, like a long coat, a waistcoat, sort of like boots, etc. He's running with like a panicked expression on his face. And you see he's like carrying some sort of like burlap sack over his shoulder, like he's sort of holding on to as he's running. And as he's sort of running, appearing to head like straight for you guys, as he's running behind him, you can see what appears to be the long, low, lithe shape of a wolf pursuing him out of the greenery, the sort of mass of foliage. And as you look around, quickly taking your surroundings with practiced ease, you can also see sort of other indistinct, like loping shapes moving through the trees all around.
Okay, I'll just call out to him then. It's over here, and I'll get my dagger ready to throw it.
Yeah, he looks at you. He looks so out of breath. He doesn't even have a chance to say anything. So you effectively get to have a quick action before anyone else reacts. The wolf's following him. What do you want to do? You can see it's getting ready to spring, presumably when it gets within range of him. Yeah, go for a dagger throw.
I doubt that does anything. So.
No, you throw your dagger. However, the wolf has to swerve slightly to avoid it, so it's not going to be able to like spring on him this turn. Okay, now the rest of you guys, obviously, by the commotion of this guy like running out with his sack over his shoulder, Quentin just sort of leaning around and wanging this dagger at this wolf. You're all obviously now aware of what's going on. So I'm going to ask, can one of you please roll the initiative for your group? It's up to you who you want to roll it. It's just standard.
I can do it.
Okay.
6.
Nice.
Okay, that's going to take some beating by the old wolf. Okay, yep, so you guys are going first.
Okay. How many shapes can we see?
It's difficult to tell because they're quite indistinct and they're moving between the trees. But there must be, there's easily like over half a dozen.
Okay. So I would like to shoot this wolf.
Okay.
That's okay. Uh, 12.
That is exactly what you need to hit.
Okay, so that's 3 points of damage. And I want to put myself between this guy and the wolf. And dog will stay with me.
Yeah, no problems. So your arrow hits this wolf in the flank. It lets out a sort of whinnying howl. And I'm going to make a quick morale check for it. Okay, it slowly, I mean, obviously it's not its go, so it's not done it fully yet, but it basically slowly starts to like slink back towards the trees with your arrow sticking out of its flank. Okay, who wants to go next?
I'm all out of ammo, so I'll just wait.
Okay, why more?
Yeah, I'm kind of far away. So the shapes, are we talking south or also, west?
All
north,
around.
Absolutely everywhere.
Yeah, mostly to the north and south.
Yeah, okay. I guess I'll pull out a bow and shoot this one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You need a 12 to hit.
Where's my bow? Oh, there we go. That's a mighty 1 damage.
Starting the year off with a bang, huh?
That's the start you mean to go on. Yeah, so your arrow like grazes this wolf as it's already falling back, and you do see like a thin trickle of blood running down its like grey coat. Okay, Brock.
I'm going to say to the other members of the group that are standing nearby, let's keep together. And I sort of gesture that we back up, sort of back to back with Harp, and form a bit of a sort of circle. And I'm going to get out my Spear of the Hunter and just be surveying to the north. So if anything comes out of those trees, I'm going to launch my spear at it. But I'm not actively going to head into the woods, or just going to try and watch the shadows amongst the trees. I'm just going to...
Is Lan doing anything in this round?
I managed to move everyone there. She's just moving behind me. She hasn't got any ranged weapon or anything, so she's just again sort of surveying the trees.
No problem.
On guard.
So on
weapon drawn.
On the NPCs go, these shapes start resolving themselves into a number of other wolves lurking in the trees that surround you. Let's reveal some more. There we go. Okay, so you see that this wolf here, the one you've injured, continues to fall back. Obviously, I'm not going to move all the wolves on the map, but effectively they're circling you as a pack of animals would do. And anyone familiar with hunting or the wilderness will know that they're effectively these sort of animals, these pack hunters. They tend to sort of circle their prey, looking for a weak spot or like the weakest link that they can then go in and sort of take down. They tend to do more sort of like hit and run tactics rather than just all piling in and trying to kill everything. So for their turn, these wolves are sort of like circling around you, no doubt trying to discover if there's a way they can get at you. Back over to you guys.
Has this guy got any weapons? The guy that come running up towards us.
He appears to have a sort of quite badly conditioned short bow.
Has he got arrows?
Yeah, he's got.
Oh, good. I'll be using his arrows then for the time being.
Yeah, he seems to be like in some sort of shock. He's not. You can see he's actually got like a couple of minor injuries, presumably where these creatures have been at him. But yeah, he's got like 12 arrows. He's not in any state to like put up a fight if you nick an arrow off him.
It's a miss.
Yeah, you yoink one of his arrows out of the primitive like leg, sort of quiver he's wearing down his left leg, notch it to your bow and fire it, But with all these creatures sort of moving around, obviously using the shadows of these huge oak trees to their advantage, it's very difficult to get a bead on them. When you fire out, you just hear the of it going through the foliage.
I'm going to hand him a torch and a way of lighting it and say, light this up to keep them away if they do attack.
Okay.
And Land's going to take a bit more of a defensive position with harp, so we got a bit better.
I will shoot this guy here on the left. Just try and scare him away.
Okay, sorry, which one is it you're shooting?
This one.
Oh, yeah. No.
And that is a miss.
Again, rather like Quentin, you fire your bow and it skims a tree and you see it stick into a branch. Okay, so just one more left then, I believe.
Right. Okay.
Before you take your action, Weimar, can you roll me a d6?
4.
Okay, so obviously as this guy's run over to you, like I say, carrying this sack, and you guys are, get in the middle, we'll like protect you, whatever. He's like chucked down the sack on the floor. He's struggling to get his bow out. Quentin's like, he's helping like Quentin take arrows out of his quiver, etc. You're just about to take your actions of keeping an eye on these wolves, these creatures that are circling you. When you swear out the corner of your eye, you see the burlap sack, which is like tied up at the top with thick cord, and is now lying like a heap on the ground. You swear you see the sack twitch slightly.
Okay. Said sack, is it dry on the outside?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. We'll leave it to be for now. This goes up, I presume. Like the small, I presume that's like a change in elevation.
Yeah, it's only a very slight one though, so you can easily clamber up it.
Right, okay. So then I guess I can see this one.
Yep.
If it's not too high, so we'll give that a shot. And so where's the sack? Sorry,
The sack's basically next to where the guy is, sort of like
yeah.
It's basically in the square just to the north of him, like next to where you, Brock, and Quentin are stood.
Yeah. Okay, I'll keep half an eye on that. Yeah, and put an arrow this way. Here we go. Okay, that's a hit, and that's some damage.
Indeed, you launch an arrow into the foliage, and you're rewarded when you hear the whinnying cry of one of these beasts as the arrow finds its mark. Okay, so the wolves, they're going to move in. I'm going to have two of them run in. So like I say, they're on that hit and run tip. And they've identified what they think is the weakest member of the group, which is Malcolm's dog. So two of them are going to run in and attack the dog. So let's see, wolf bite. First one. That is a miss. Your dog is able to fend off the first wolf as the two of them rush in. The second one. However, your dog takes 3 hit points of damage as the second wolf runs in and sort of like nips at one of its back legs. So I'll leave you to put that on your dog's character sheet, Malcolm. Okay.
Yeah, that's done now.
Lovely. And that's all the wolves are doing for this turn. The rest are all sort of circling warily. Like I say, they're animals. They're not mindless monsters. They're not just all rushing in to try and like pile drive you. they're looking for a weak link, someone they can just like take out quickly and then get back out again. Two of them have gone for the dog. It's taken a bit of a few nips on its back leg, but otherwise seems okay because it's like quite a tough sort of dog. Over to you guys. Who wants to go first?
I will, because they bit my dog. So I think I'll attack the one to the south of the dog. So that's 8 points of damage.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so is this you attacking it, or is this your dog? Like you attacking with
that was me, but the dog, yeah, with the green steel, yeah, and then.
Okay, so you charge in with the green steel, and as you draw it, there's no like the sun sword. There's no like massive like ray of light bursts out of it. However, you do notice that as you swing the sword, the sort of air around the blade appears to like shimmer slightly, almost like there's like a sort of heat haze coming from it, although you don't feel any heat emanating from it. It's just that like subtle distortion of the air you get in like a heat haze. And it strikes the wolf a palpable blow. It lets out this howling cry as a huge cut is opened down its side. You can see that like it's sort of like leaning heavily on one of its legs, like the leg's not really holding it up any longer.
Okay. And then dog will also bite the same one.
Okay.
And he does 19 points. Sorry, 6 points of damage.
Okay, I was going to say 19 points of damage. I'll say your dog's not that good.
Yeah. I wish.
Okay, so seeing the opening that your blow has made to like relieve itself of one of its tormentors, your dog literally runs in, sinks its teeth into the throat of this wolf and just tears its throat out. The wolf lets out a sickening gurgle and collapses to the grassy floor of the forest, twitching feebly for a few moments before lying still.
And then he'll howl.
Indeed he does. This howl reverberates through the forest clearing. A number of the wolves sort of howl back in response, as though they're sort of like in a sort of strange canine way. Maybe they're trying to psych each other out or something like that. You're not really sure. You're not an expert on canine psychology, but that's certainly what it seems like. But who would like to go next?
I'm going to help myself to another arrow, and I'm going to concentrate on this one.
Which one? Sorry, oh, that one. Yeah, that's it. Okay, go for it. It's definitely a hit. Yep. So your arrow finds its mark and sinks into the wolf. Okay, Weimar, what are you up to?
Oh, I guess because there's a lot of noise now coming over this way, I'll spin around and put a no, I'll stick the bow in the ground, spin around, fetch my pistol, and shoot this.
Okay, now bear in mind that is in combat with the dog.
Ah,
so there's a chance you could hit the dog.
It is. So we're not doing that.
I'll shoot my dog.
So as we've said previously, the way that would work is if you took a move and just fired, it'd be like, oh, there's a 50-50 chance you'll hit the dog. Mm-hmm. If you like 1 to 3 on a d6, it's the wolf. Otherwise, it's the dog. If you spend if you spent your move aiming effectively, it would be like 1 to 4, it's the wolf. 5 to 6, it's the dog.
Yep. But I have a history of doing stuff like this and majestically butchering the NPC in the process. So, well, I'm going to save the pistol, and we're gonna put another arrow up there.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess for some reason I blanked out and I was like, oh, that dog is a wolf, I guess. Okay, here we go. Oh, well. Yeah, sure. Sure. I'll take that.
Indeed. So your arrow sinks into the wolf there, and you hear the faint thump as it falls to the forest floor. Your arrow sticking out of it. Okay. Which leaves Brock, I believe.
Yeah. I believe Lan is going to see this wolf come in, so she's going to come over and try and fend that off
Okay.
first. Not very successfully. Yeah, and Brock's he's just going to launch his spear up towards this one that's closest to us at the top.
Okay.
Launcher. I assume that hits.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So your spear slices a deep cut into the wolf, and then sort of like continues onwards and sticks in a tree behind it. The wolf is still moving, but you can see like there's like a heavy flow of blood matting its fur from the deep wound that your spear has opened in its side as it sort of flew past it. Okay, at this point, Weimar, Brock, and Quentin. Well, not Brock, it'll be Quentin and Weimar. Can you both roll me a d6?
5.
Okay. And what about yourself, Quentin? Okay, so Weimar, again, you notice that this bag appears to be like moving slightly. And in one of the slightly quieter moments of this melee that's occurring, you think you hear like a slightly like high pitched like whining sound coming from inside the burlap sack.
Right. Okay, who's going?
Has everyone on the player's side gone?
Yeah.
In which case we'll go to the NPCs then. So let me just remove that dead wolf out of the way to the side there. There's another couple dart in. Again, they're going for the dog because it's the smallest of you, basically. And I'll do their attacks. So, first one. Misses. Second one. Misses. Third one. Okay, so your dog takes a mighty 1 hit point of damage from these 3 wolves attacking it, as the small and tenacious terrier uses its sort of like small size, and it's one of those like puggish, like muscular small dogs. It sort of uses its small size like outmaneuver these 3 sort of like, they're not dire wolves, but they're still larger than a small sort of hunting dog, and it uses its maneuverability to great effect, sort of dodging their sort of clumsy snaps with their jaws, just getting caught by one of their sort of like claws as it's like darting between them and harrying them. Okay, over to you guys.
Can I use my move to swap places with my dog?
Yeah.
So I will just do that, and then I will attack this one just below me.
Okay.
So
Damn!
okay, that's 5 points of damage for him.
Okay, so again with this slight sort of shimmer in the air, you drive the Greensteel into this wolf. It's still hanging on to life somehow, but like barely. You can see it's struggling to stand up. as you sort of like meet its gaze as you're pulling your sword back out of it, you see like its eyes are like unfocused and they're sort of rolling around a bit as it's trying to sort of keep you in its vision, but it's not long for this world, is what I'm saying.
Okay. And now dog will have a bite and see if we can send it on its way. No.
Okay.
Just a little nip.
Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll shoot the same one.
Okay, now remember it is in combat with Malcolm.
No, this one.
Oh, the same one you shot last time. I think the same one
Yeah.
we were just talking about. My apologies. No, go ahead. Okay, so again, one of your arrows hits the wolf, scoring a shallow mark down its back. Okay, so we've just got Brock and Weimar now. So whichever one of you wants to go first.
Brock, do you want to go?
Can do. Yep. I should launch my Spear of the Hunter towards the one I wounded last round.
Now remind me, does the Spear of the Hunter return to your hand after you've thrown it?
No, it doesn't. It's just basically +1.
Because if you remember,
Plus
you've
one.
already thrown it at one of the...
No, I've got a normal spear,
Oh, it was your normal spear.
and then I've got I
Okay.
didn't want to lose it, so I thought I'll throw my normal spear in case it runs off. But
That's
I'm
fine.
hoping
So
that this one will finish it off.
you aiming at that same wolf again?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So yeah, your Spear of the Hunter plunges unerringly through the space between you and this wolf and strikes it dead on in the centre of its head, sinking in as the creature topples to one side and falls to the ground dead. Your spear sort of sticking upright out of its skull.
So that's me out of missile weapons for Brock. But
I love the fact
Glenn.
everyone else is like, oh yeah, we've got like bows, we've got like firearms and whatever. Brock's like, I just need 2 spears and my arm. That's what I need.
I do.
Is
I have got to go and retrieve them now.
Yeah, it is no solution's perfect, but
No.
is Lan doing anything?
Yeah, she's gonna attack this wolf on Harp's west flank there and try and defend him. Yeah. 4 damage, I believe.
Indeed. She steps forward, the mighty Lan swinging her 2-handed sword, and catches the creature on one of its flanks, sort of driving it backwards a little bit with her Ice Walker strength. Okay, now I've just got Weimar, I believe.
Okay. Well, now I'll stick the bow in the ground and here. Oh.
Yeah, as you draw the sun sword, a bright summer's day, luminous radiance of divine sunlight fills the scene, and as we've described, like the sort of choral like wafts out into the summer evening.
Yep, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, there's no reaction from the other sword, is there? Any sort of echoing or reply?
Mine's defective.
I love it. You pull it out, and like the Greensteel's like, "Yeah, boy." No, there isn't a reaction.
No harmony or anything.
Yeah. When we get like, oh, we need a 4th sword for a quartet.
You pull out your sword. Do, re, mi.
Yeah. So we bring the judgment down on the wolf.
Go for it.
In question. For a spicy 7.
Okay, that is it done. You cleave it in twain with the sun sword. And I'm going to make a quick morale check for the rest of them that are left, because a lot of them have been killed.
Oof.
Okay, yeah, so I'm not going to move them all now, but basically the rest of the wolves sort of start slowly like slinking away back into the woodlands. Like I say, they were looking for easy prey, effectively, and you guys have successfully convinced them with your display of prowess that that is not you. So they slowly start to slink away, a few of them lying scattered around already dead from your mighty blows. The rest slowly start like withdrawing back into the oaken canopy of the wolf forest.
I'm going to quickly retrieve my spears in case they do come back.
Yeah, that's not.
Can I skin and gut the wolves so we can take some of the meat for food? And
Yeah, that's fine, not a problem.
I'll pick up my dagger.
Yeah, you can all retrieve whatever equipment you've used. That's not a problem.
And then I think I'll investigate this sack, since it's caused so much fracas.
Okay, so you move over to the sack. The guy who came running out of the forest is still sort of like recovering his breath and still sort of looking suspiciously at the forest canopy. He doesn't seem to really like notice you. He's obviously like shit scared that those wolves are going to come back. You move over to this Hessian sack with a thick cord tying it at the top. Like I say, it's like a big sort of Hessian sack, and you can see it's definitely sort of moving. There's something inside it moving, and now everything's quietened a bit. You can hear this sort of like low, sort of slightly high pitch, like whining coming from inside the sack.
Open the sack.
Yeah, no problem. You've got your dagger in hand. You quickly just like slit the cord, open the sack up, and as you open it up, you can see there are what appear to be 3 small wolf cubs inside the sack. And it is they who are emitting the sort of high-pitched canine whining.
So I'll say to our new friend here, it's like, your bright idea.
He's still a bit panting for breath, but he's like, wow, it's my business, isn't it? It's like I get good money for them in New Zealand.
Business?
Yeah.
Are you a trapper?
He's a trapper, hunter. He's like, oh, come on, you must have heard of the famous New Zealand wolfhounds.
You grow them, you mean?
He says, well,
You rear them.
he says, yeah, they've got a proper little business going on in New Zealand. There's people there who like take wolf pups, obviously like plentiful resource because wolf forest, isn't it? They take them when they're young and they can train them to make them into like these elite hunting hounds. And well, they'll pay 10 gold coins per wolf cub.
Huh.
At which point now he's got his breath back a bit. He's like I say, he's dressed quite strangely to your guys' eyes. He's wearing like a sort of like long coat. He's got like a waistcoat on, sort of like breeches, like sort of thick like a leather, sort of like hiking boots, and he's wearing like a strange sort of like 3-pointed hat on his head. And he sort of like raises an eyebrow as he like looks over and takes in, actually like sees you guys properly for the first like time, and he's like, don't mean to sound ungrateful or anything, but you fellas going to a masquerade ball or something?
What?
Yeah, a masquerade, but I assume that's why you're wearing the strange get-up.
Well, I'm wearing leather armor because it keeps me alive.
Yeah, same, except
He says,
I bang on my.
He says, I didn't mean any offence. He says, well, I know a lot of people like to collect antiques and stuff like that. Nothing meant by it. It's just rare to see someone thusly attired wandering around the woodlands, you know.
Could you answer me a question? What's this statue about?
He says, what the old one. He's obviously you're a little bit far away from the gate now, but he sort of jerks his thumb back in the direction of the gate. And he says, "What do you mean the old overgrown statue by the
That's the one, yeah.
by a big old gate?" He says, well, I can't see how true this is, but he says the way I hear it, it's but back in the day, like not long after New Zealand had been founded, there's this like group of people who were like heavily involved in like the founding of the village and like setting it all up and getting it founded and whatever. And from what I've heard, one day they went into the wolf forest. They said they were just gonna explore in the forest. They went to this gateway. They disappeared. No one saw anything of them after that. So after a few years had passed, there used to be this old, I mean, he's long gone now, but there used to be this old dwarven fellow at New Zealand, and he was the very fellow who came back to the village and told them like where they were going. And after like a few years, obviously they were like, well, unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're coming back. So the old dwarf fellow, he carved this statue of them near where the gate is. He says, all that was a while ago. I mean, let's see, going back 5-6 years, something like that now. But I don't know how true it is, but that's the way I heard it. Anyway, I mean, I never knew the dwarf fella myself.
How big is New Zealand now?
He says, well, it's a pretty big village. It's got a stone wall around it. Obviously, there's the two towers by the river. And that's assuming you don't count Worm's Watch Tower to the west. And it's not technically part of the village, but while the lady of the two towers is like in charge of the village and Worm's Watch as well. So some people count and some people don't.
Okay, and who's the lady of the two towers?
He says, it's old Dixon. She's in charge of the. She's in charge.
Mercy Dixon.
Yeah, that's her name. He says, although from what I hear, and I mean, I only really go to New Zealand to do a little bit of trading. From what I hear, she spends most of her time in the watchtower, Worm's Watch. Now, you know, keeping an eye on the Dragon Mountains.
Indeed. And where do you live yourself?
He says, "Well, I've got a small hut, you know, on the outskirts of the forest. It's nothing grand, but you know, it does for me. I like to keep near to where my business is. So,
okay.
Occasionally do a bit of
I'll take.
So, what was that, fella?
I think I'll take these 3 pups as payment for your life, which we've just saved."
He says, "Oh, I don't know about that." He said, "This is my only source of income. Like, if I let you take these, well, I'll have to go out and get some more, and then I won't have any money to like feed myself or anything like that."
It's always fighters for them.
Aye.
He says, "Look, you guys are like wearing like full armor. I've seen you swinging your weapons around. You obviously like know what you're about. I'm just a simple hunter. I'm not going to say that I'm going to like fight you for these like wolf pups. I mean, if you really want to take them, I don't have the means to stop you. To be honest, I would just say, just consider that you're depriving a man of his livelihood, though."
So, hold up a minute. I know that I shoot clean shots most of the time. Brock here, that was a wonderful throw. Masterful form, Brock. How about we string up a couple of these and we skin them? You can have the meat as well if you want.
Well, what the
belts.
cubs?
No, the big ones.
Oh,
The big ones.
now that's a relief. I thought you meant the cubs. Then I was
No,
saying
no,
I need
no.
them alive for my payday.
Because something to take home. The pelts, meat.
So you're going to give me the meat and the skins in return for the pups, yeah?
Yeah. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Yeah.
Okay.
That'll feed me for a good while, and I can probably get a little bit for the furs, the adult furs.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, we'll call it a deal then. And he sort of like he spits in his hand and holds his hand out.
Yeah. I'll just sort of wave off everyone. It's like, I'll work with. What's your name again?
He says, my name. He says, my name's Eli Cord.
Eli. So I'll get the rope, string up a couple of these, and I'll get the skins to Eli,
Yeah,
and we can all leave winners here, except I guess the wolves. But you know.
it doesn't take you that long. You skin these wolves. You give Eli the meat and the skins. He sort of like basically takes these empties this sack out, so these like pups fall onto the floor. Like, puts all of the stuff you've given him into the sack, throws it over his shoulder, and he's like, right, well, thanks again for your timely intervention. If for business is done here, I'll be on my merry way.
Yeah. Which way to, New Zealand?
He says, right, look, if you continue to the west and follow the coast, shouldn't take you more than a couple of days to get there. That's the way I came when I was coming down here. If you need to stop off, there is like a little farmhouse on the way, which you might be able to stop off at. I don't know how friendly the person is. I just passed it by, but there's a little farmhouse on the way. But yeah, it shouldn't take you more than a couple of days to get to New Zealand if you stick to the coast path.
All right then, Eli.
Right, well, all the best of luck to you, gentlemen. Enjoy your masquerade ball, and maybe I'll see you all again if the one true God be willing. Stay well, and he sort of like wanders off into the forest. You hear him sort of like whistling a tune, and it fades away as he like disappears through the trees.
So, whatever's going on hasn't dispersed Leander, at least. Malcolm, I'm sure you're glad to hear that.
Well, the one true God is the Dolmenwood God.
There's a lot of overlap there. I think there's a lot of overlap here.
Okay.
I suppose we'll find out, though.
Yes.
Who knows? Maybe they went because didn't you talk with some folk about having a shrine to the judge?
I did, but without us here to keep up the momentum, it's hard to see how it might have survived.
Wouldn't that be a thing? Suppose we'll see.
Yes, I
A
suppose we
stone
will.
wall? That takes a long time to put up. And the towers as well? Finished?
It seems quite some time has passed, though. Somehow.
Strange that he wouldn't recognize the armor.
As you sort of say, how strange you would recognise him. Like Lan like leans in and sort of says, "I reckon there's some evil magic at work here." And she sort of frowns.
There's always evil magic at work.
She nods.
Yeah, I think that's part
Sometimes
of
it's
how
just
works.
magic.
It's never just magic.
Sometimes it's just magic.
That's right, evil magic, she says.
We'll agree to disagree as Brock starts to walk westwards.
Right, I guess.
I am going to follow the wolves and return these 3 pups.
Okay, not a problem. So you sort of start following the wolf tracks, and you can see that they sort of head eastwards, sort of in this direction. So you want to follow those tracks, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. So you spend a day following the tracks. You pass through, just before the end of the day, you pass through an area where the sort of the tree cover is a little bit lighter. And just it's getting to the end of the day and you're starting to look around and think, oh, we're going to have to find somewhere to rest. You spot the trail of these wolves, which appears to be heading into deeper into the forest. You think it's probably going to take you maybe... It looks like the trail carries on for at least like a few hours, and like I say, it's getting to like the end of the day when you discover it. Obviously, you'll all need to use a ration.
Okay. Should we rest here? Or do we want to head into the... I guess we don't want to be attacked in the dark.
No, certainly not.
And at this point, since you've travelled for a day, I'm going to ask Malcolm, can you please roll me 4d10?
23.
So I just need the individual rolls. It's for
8, 7, 3, and 5.
It's alright, it's not a problem. Yeah, so you are blissfully unmolested by any random encounters as you move through the forest. Like I say, the only thing you notice that seems even vaguely out of the ordinary is, like I say, this sort of slightly lighter area of trees, but that's just a case that the tree covers a bit lighter. It's nothing supernatural or anything like that. And then you pose this question to the group: do we want to camp here before we follow this trail?
Just bed down, and
It's a safer option.
someone light a fire.
Okay, so you all bed down for the evening. You keep various watches, etc. Of course, you can all regain 1d3 hit points if you are down hit points due to your evening of rest.
That's the same for dog, is it?
Yes, it is, yeah. And the next morning you awake, you're on the very outskirts of the forest, you awake to the golden warmth of the sun rising over the horizon, and you can now more clearly see these trails that Malcolm, as thanks to his expert abilities in the wilderness, has been sort of leading you through despite the darkness of the previous night. But you can now more clearly see these like wolf tracks from looks like many different wolves heading into the forest.
Okay, so I think I'll just keep following the tracks, hoping to find the pack of wolves to return the pups.
Okay, so you start following this trail. I'm going to quickly make a roll to see if you have any encounters. No, you are fine. Okay, so you follow this trail, and as you move, you start to see increasing signs of that wolf activity in the area. Any of you are hunters, wilderness people, etc., you start noticing like animal dung, bits of hair caught on like low-lying foliage, like bits of fur, etc. You start finding like rabbits, hares, prey animals. You start finding like bones scattered around, obviously the remnants of these wolves feeding. As you continue, like I say, for maybe about 3 or 4 hours into the sort of deep forest, you eventually start heading into a slightly rockier sort of area, and as you head towards it, you start hearing the sort of like the growls and the howling of wolves a short way in the distance.
Okay. How far away do we think it is?
You think less than an hour. Just travel.
Okay. Okay, so I think I'll move forward and keep traveling, I guess, till we see our first wolf.
Okay, as you sort of head towards this stony area, it drops down into sort of almost like a sort of a bowl-shaped depression, although it's clearly naturally formed. And as you look down into it, you can see a large number of wolves, some older, some younger. There's some pups there. You have a quick sort of look around, quick count up as best you can, and you estimate there's like 30 wolves at least.
Okay.
In this area, you can see there's plenty of evidence that they've been here for some time. There's there's not really not caves as such, but there are some like depressions in the sort of like the stone bowl surroundings and like the walls of it that they presumably use as shelter, and there's like pubs in them and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'll just kind of drop the pups down onto the ground and give them a push towards the wolves, and then just start backing away from.
Indeed, as you let the pups go, they obviously hear the other wolves, and they start sort of heading towards them. As they do, you see a couple of the older wolves head towards them, sort of nuzzle them a little bit before it's like ushering them into the pack as a whole.
Okay, and then we will, I guess, lead them be and hope not to attract their attention.
Okay, that's probably not a bad idea. Okay, so are you heading back to the trail?
Yes, please.
Okay, no problem. So it's taking you like a good 4 to 12 hours to get there. You head back. By the time you're getting back, it's early evening. Again, there's been nothing that's occurred to like cause you any problems as you've travelled through the woods. Although again, you are all finding it quite strange because there's parts of the wood that seem the forest that seem very familiar, the presence of the wolves, the general layout of the landscape. I mean, you guys have travelled through here a number of times, but the actual type of foliage, now it's these oak trees, and a few other like bits of the landscape seem very different. Like you don't remember there being like this depression here with these like sort of jagged bits of natural stone, even though you've like been through this area, but some of the rest of the landscape looks very familiar. It's quite disorientating to you, although you sort of know roughly where you are by relation to the coast.
Okay. So how far can we move before dark in terms of going west?
Okay, you could make it back to the lighter area of trees just before it got dark.
Okay, so we'll do that then.
The day would be ending sort of when you got there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, no problem. So you head west into this lighter area of trees. You've moved roughly 4 segments in the day, so I'm going to roll 4d10, see if we get any random encounters or anything like that. Nope, you're good. So at the end of the day, you all start getting back to this, like I say, area of lighter foliage. The moon, the single moon of this world, has started to rise, and it's casting a sort of silvery light across the landscape, just a little bit to the south of where you are, sort of just on the very edge of where you can see. You can just make out, thanks to the lighter foliage, the outline of the coast where it drops down to the sea, and you can hear the gentle sound of the waves lapping against the shore. Okay, so anyone who is resting, you can get, obviously you will have to eat a ration again, but anyone who is resting, you can get D3 hit points back. And as you're all sort of setting up, you're getting ready to go to sleep, you're sorting out your watches, etc. You've made like a makeshift lean-to, all the normal sort of stuff you do when you're camping, and you're sort of like you guys have been doing this for a long time now in character, so you know how to set up a campsite. That's not a problem. As it's setting up and the moon's, like I say, casting this dim radiance, Malcolm, you sort of glance off to the east and you can see the sort of coastal trail continues to the east, and you've been looking at Weimar's sort of map and your own recollections, like you say, trying to sort of puzzle out where things are now, what's still there, what's not there, etc. And you recall that to the east of here, by your old reckoning, maybe a day or two, is the ruined abbey where you all once confronted the great wyvern that was lairing there.
Okay.
So as you guys are getting ready to go to sleep, is there anything you guys want to discuss with each other? Now you're in this sort of strange new world. What are you guys thinking about what's going on so far?
Do we think we should approach Mercy Dixon and say we've returned? Do we need to find out more about the politics of the land?
Guess we could enter as strangers if they do that sort of thing. Maybe look around for a bit, ask around what Mercy is like.
Yeah.
Who was Mercy Dixon? That's a name that's familiar.
Mercy Dixon was originally the woman who was in charge of Staffstone Tower. She was like a lieutenant of Seth Brannan, the Lord of Eastburn, the sort of like usurper lord of Fort Eastburn. She was the one who basically was sent to give you guys the invite to the meeting you went to there, and she was the one who was sort of like, oh yeah, by the way, like on the down low, like they're planning on making like Weimar like the Castellan of whatever tower they're building.
Yeah.
In New Zealand. And she was instrumental in like putting when you guys were actually, we quite like 2 towers and we've already like planned out most of it. She was like instrumental in basically selling that to like Brannan, to the point where like when you guys actually sort of mentioned it, he was just like, oh yeah, just tell me all about it, it's fine, we'll send some guys to help you out with it.
I mean, she doesn't, well, potentially know us, although it's some time ago. So she might remember. Yet to be seen.
Yeah, but we've fought beside her a number of times. Like we're not casual acquaintances.
Yeah, she fought by your side
No.
a couple of times, helping defend New Zealand against
I
giant
know.
wolves and vampires and the like.
I'm just saying we won't be complete strangers if we meet her. I don't think, but not that matters anyway. It'd be interesting to see if anyone else is there that we might recognise or that might recognise us. If anyone else is still around, but yeah, I'm keen to get back as soon as possible. See what else has happened to these lands, and while our time away.
Okay, so you guys know that when you were near the south gate where you met the trapper, he told you that like I was going to take a couple of days following the coast to get to New Zealand. You've effectively travelled like a day east, so by that reckoning, it's going to take you like 3 days from your present location, give or take, to get to New Zealand.
Yeah.
But if no one has anything else, you drift off into a peaceful night's sleep. So you can all regain D3 hit points, etc. You all need to eat a ration. And the next morning, again, the sun rises over the wolf forest. The weather's getting a little bit cooler. Those of you who are from Rohaleen, you probably wouldn't know this, Brock, because you're used to like short summer, winter all the time. Whereas those who come from Rohaleen, where there's more normal seasons, you recognise this weather as though you're in the sort of like tail end of summer, just sort of going into autumn. The weather's just starting to cool slightly. There's like a few more like fresh breezes, especially here on the coast, because you've got the sea breeze coming in. But it's still fairly temperate, which means it's still bloody warm by Valkonnen reckonings. You wake up in the morning. What do you want to do?
I think we should just head west.
Yeah. Sooner the better. We investigate what's happening.
Okay, no problems. So you head west, heading, and at the end of the day, you reach the gateway again that you were previously in. Again, you are unmolested by any sort of random encounters or creatures of the forest as you move. You will need to eat a ration. As you rest for the evening, you can all regain 1d3 hit points.
And we have been opportunistic foraging during the day.
Yeah, that's fine. Make a roll for it.
Okay. So we were opportunistically missing all of the opportunities.
Indeed.
And then one for the dog.
I'll have a bit of foraging since Malcolm's taking a bit of time on hunting. But that's a failure as well.
Okay, it's not going well for Team Forage at the minute.
No. No, there's too much stuff around here.
You do notice, although you're hearing a lot of animals, the animals in the area are like very skittish. No doubt due to the large population of like wolves in the area, which mean like if you make yourself obvious you're there for the getting, you've probably already been got.
Mm.
So like a lot of the animals are like very wary, even for like wild animals, which doesn't surprise you, Brock, given that you've just seen there's like a pack of like 50 odd wolves nearby. You'd be a bit skittish if you were a rabbit or whatever. Okay, so the next morning, are you continuing west?
Yeah, I think
towards
so.
New Zealand. Okay.
Unless
We're looking
Malcolm,
out for this farmhouse.
unless Malcolm wants to do any more babysitting.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
I like. No, I'm good. I'm good. Okay, so you continue west for around about 8 hours, and as you're sort of rounding the coast, you spot a small building, and you can hear the sort of sound of chickens or fowl of some variety up ahead of you. And as you continue moving, you can see this small sort of little coastal farmhouse, like a small wooden like chicken shed, little cottage, etc. I mean, it's not a very big building. I mean, it's like we're talking like a sort of one-room farmhouse. It's like a little chicken coop built onto the side of it. You can see there's a man out the front with a small child. You can't tell if it's a boy or a girl at this distance. You see the guy's wearing like a waistcoat, sort of working man's trousers. He's got like a straw hat on his head, and as he's moving around, and he's just like throwing from a bag that's on his belt, throwing some grain out for these chickens. They're always like clucking and scrabbling for the grain. Weimar, as you're sort of looking at this, being ever the military man, you notice that the young lad / lass, you're not sure, is sort of stood on the sort of outskirts of this chicken pen that the guy's moving around, and you can see there's like 2 muskets on the inside of the chicken pen, sort of like lent up, like within like reach, obviously for easy reach of the farmer. And I'm gonna make a roll to see if he spots you. I'm gonna say a 1 or a 2 he spots you, because you've not specified being like particularly stealthy. So I'll just give him a 1 or a 2 on a d6, see if he spots you or not. Okay, so as you spot these 2 rifles, so like these muskets lent up against the inside of the chicken, like for a moment you like lock eyes with this farmer as he just looks up, and he sees this leather-clad man, this like plate mail-clad man, an elven like hunter, 2 huge barbarians with like massive weapons stomping down the path. You see him open his mouth, and he shouts something to the lad. You can now see it's a young lad, and the young lad sort of like grabs one of these muskets and like passes it over to him, and you see him sort of like pull a little like powder thing out from his belt, like pulls it off with his teeth, and he's like, you can tell why more from your days in the service, and Quentin, you might be able to tell this as well, that this man's obviously got some like military experience. Even though he's dressed like a farmer, you can see like the way he's like quickly like, I mean, it's not quick to load a musket any way you shake it, but the way he's going about it, he's like doing it the quickest, most like practiced way.
So I'll just put up a hand and it's like, peace. Peace.
Okay, make me a charisma roll.
Fuck me. Almost, but no Dobie.
That's fine. He's now like lifted up the gun. It's like ready to fire, but he doesn't immediately fire it. You see, he's basically aiming it slightly over your head, like he was about to let out like a warning shot. But when you're sort of like peace, peace, you hold your hand up. It's caused him to pause for a moment. He's still keeping the gun up. He's not like, oh, that's fine, come in and meet the missus or whatever. But he's also not like, oh, I'm going to shoot you dead immediately. He looks wary, but he's not squeezed the trigger. Like you can see his fingers on it, and he's like, who are you? What business do you have at my farm?
We're just passing through, wondering if you would trade for food and news.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I will. Tell me, where do you hail from, stranger?
We're newly returned to these lands. We're heading to New Zealand.
Oh, right, okay.
We've got coin.
He sort of nods and he says, I tell you what, you can come in and trade and maybe share some bread and soup and some news and whatnot, but you're gonna have to leave any weapons you've got with the lad. And he like jerks his head in the direction of the lad. He's like, I've got children in the farmhouse. I'm not having weapons in there. I don't even take mine in there.
Yeah, we don't have to come in. We can just trade news over the wall. We don't.
He says, as you wish. Come closer then. I hope you won't take offence if I keep hold of old Bessie here. And he like pats the musket he's holding.
No offence at all. It's
but he basically like he like lowers it down, so like he could bring it up if he needed to, but he's not like ready to go at the minute. He's just like lowered it a little bit. And he's like, well, come closer then if you have a mind to talk. And he looks down at the young lad to the side of him, and he's like, Robert, go inside and have your mother give you some bread. The least we can do is be hospitable with strangers. And the young lad like runs inside. By the time you get there, he's come back out, and he's basically like a wooden plate that's just got some like rough looking loaf and probably a little bit of cheese on it, etc. And he just like puts it down on one of the big fence posts of this like chicken coop.
Okay. So I'll just help myself to a bit of the meat of the bread, and say I'm Malcolm Harp. These are my friends, Weimar, Brock, Lan, and Quinton. We're on our way to New Zealand. I guess we haven't been in this part of the world in 10 years or so. Can you give us news of what's changed?
He says, oh, well, you mean you've not been around since before the Nights of Colourless Fire then?
No.
Definitely, yeah. It's been a while.
He says, oh, yeah, that was a terrible business. Oh, years back now. It was like the sky was splitting open. The land changed, like cracks opened in the ground. He says, the Witch's Island sank. So all manner of stuff happened. Like, obviously, the people are saying, oh, it was the end of the world, and like that the end times had come. You know how these religious folk always do. He said, but it settled down after a while, and right, things are a little bit different. But he says, look on the bright side. Certainly for people like myself who were down in the southern part of Valkonnen, he says, well, it's a lot easier to grow crops and whatnot down here now. Mind you, I'm only just starting out at the minute. I've only got a few chickens at the minute. I'm doing a bit of fishing. He jerks his thumb back in the direction of the coast. They're open to eventually like diversify out, start growing some crops, but got to prepare the land. It's not the best for it being on the coast, but me and the family will make it work. We don't mind putting in a bit of hard graft. And he says, but I got the land grant all like nice and legal from the Lady of the Towers. And so
okay.
after my army days, to be honest, I just want to settle down, mind my own business, look after my family, what more could a man want? He says, "Oh, sorry, forgive me, how terribly rude of me. William Dinsmore's the name."
Ah, William, nice to meet you.
And he sort of leans down and ruffles the lad's hair, and he's like, "Oh, and this scamp here, this is young Robert, my wife Mary, and my daughter Alice are inside."
Sorry, I missed the wife's name, John.
Mary.
Yeah,
Weird.
yeah, it cut out a bit.
Okay. What can you tell us of the Lady of the Two Towers?
He says, old Mercy Dixon. He says, "Wow, it was when the dragons arose in the mountains. It was her who rallied all the local people around to help defend themselves. She's overseen like the building of the two towers, and they got like a load of like old sort of stones and bits of old ruins, and they've like shored them up against the walls around the village to like make it better protected. Although from what I hear, you know, she, after what happened to her when the dragons arose, some say she's gone a bit paranoid that one day they might come back, and that's why she spends all of her time at Wormwatch now, you know, like keeping an eye out in case they ever come back. But well, I could hardly blame her."
What can you tell us about the dragons?
He says, "Well, from what, like I say, I'm not the oldest person in this area, but from what I hear, they say that there was this great lord who used to dwell hereabouts, and where he became so greedy and so covetous and so spiteful that when the magic went wild and ran out across the land, his body bloated and he became this huge, merciless, covetous, great worm that now dwells within these mountains that rose up to the west of here. And while they say he's there still."
Is that the Lord of Eastbourne? Do you know? Is that what they say he was called?
He says, "Yeah, I think that was it. I think that was the name of the place. Either way, it was some old fort that used to lie where the Wormspire Mountains are now, to the west of here. But when the mountains rose up, like I say, when the land was shuddering and shaking and rising and falling, I assume the old fort was destroyed. But they still say in the tallest peak of the Wormspire Mountains, they still say the old lord, now this bloated and corrupt dragon, lies there wrapped around his treasure with only like his greed and his anger to keep him going. And they say that when you hear rumbles in the Wormspire Mountain, that's the old lord himself sort of counting his coin or grumbling that he doesn't have enough wealth." That's what they say anyway.
Okay. And who is the lord of these lands? Is it the lady herself?
He says, it's the Lady of the Towers. She mostly keeps everything running smoothly around here."
And how far does her lands go?
He says, "Well, it's mostly just the free coast. Maybe for a couple of days to the west of here, and maybe a couple of days to the north along the Great River. Not far, but I mean, she does her best to keep the coast as free as she can, and so that people like myself can settle down here."
Okay. Cool. And have you much food for sale?
He says, "Well, I can give you a couple of days worth of like bread and cheese and a bit of hardtack. I don't need any payment for that. That's fine. It's the least I can do for
Okay.
people. You know, I'm sure it's what Leander would want." And he shouts off and some like basically that, let's say 8 days, 8 doses of rations effectively is bought out, and that's handed over to you, and it's just like little parcels of like slightly stale bread, a bit of cheese, let's say a bit of like jerky, that sort of stuff. And he's like, "Wow," he's like, "There you go. We're pretty well set up here, so you're welcome to that, stranger.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and hopefully we won't be strangers when next we meet.
He says, I've got to, and again, I apologise for the bit with the gun earlier. He says, you give me your man there, and he points at Wymo, says, get me a right turner coming out of the trees and the dawn light dress. He says, oh, for a second there, I thought it was the Red Knight coming out of the woods.
The Red Knight?
And he laughs. And he's like, oh, come on. He said, you must have heard the tale.
No, we've been adrift for a bit.
Oh, right you are. He says, well, it's a little more than like a kid's fairy story, to be honest. You know, they tell it to the children to like make sure they behave and stuff. But they say that if you're pure of heart and you find yourself bedeviled by brigands or monsters or anything like that in the darkness of the night, very occasionally this figure clad all in armour will appear and will help deliver the person from their enemies. They say he moves almost like a spirit or a ghost of some kind, and the stories vary a little bit, but they're always basically the same. Someone's in trouble at night, this armoured figure appears from nowhere, sees off their attackers, they turn around to thank him, and he's disappeared. And they call him the Red Knight. I don't know why. But yeah, like I had the stories going back a few years, and like I say, when I saw your man there come out in all that armour, I mean, like I say, we don't see much like that now. Gave me a bit of a funny turn, it did.
Armour is not widely worn?
He says, well, unless you're going into like a big battle or something, not really. Since they started knocking out more of these, and he like pats the musket, there's not been that much call for it, to be perfectly honest.
Okay. And are the muskets expensive?
He says, well, not too expensive. I mean, it depends where you get them from, to be perfectly honest.
Right. Do you know if they sell them in New Zealand?
He says, oh yeah, of course they do.
Okay.
So it's a big old place, yeah. You usually find some there. I mean, the expense depends on really on what sort of firing mechanism you want on them. To be perfectly honest, just depends what you're looking for. He said, I mean, well, if you were to buy a musket like old Bessie here, I mean, don't get me wrong, she's not exactly the quickest to load. I mean, she's only a matchlock. You have to put a lit match in it to fire her up. But well, they've been working on these newfangled wheel locks and the flint locks now. But they're still a bit on the rare side, and they do drive the price up something fierce. He says you could get something like old Bessie here for well probably about 30 coin. Whereas if you're talking at flintlock, you're easily looking at like 4 times that, and like double that again if you're looking for a wheel lock.
And you mentioned Leander, and we met a previous traveller who mentioned the one true God.
Oh yeah.
Is there conflict between the religions?
He says, well, don't get me wrong, I say my prayers. I mean, I think you can't do wrong to have like the gods on your side. Everyone needs a bit of extra help now. But I wouldn't say I was exactly a devout man. You know, I'm a bit more like to take care of my own business. But well, I'm trying to think how best to explain it. There's basically, the way I see it and the way I is it, there's 3 main types of god that what people worship now. There's Leander, which a lot of us who came over from like Rohaleen and places like that still follow. I'm assuming you know Leander. There's the one true god now. Is the people who follow him? They're sort of the new lot that appeared like during the Knights of the Colourless Fire, and then mostly sort of integrated themselves. I mean, it's mostly the Brackenwold lot to the north who are like big followers of like the one true god, and them and Leander's lot seem like fairly similar. The followers of the one true god, they're like a bit more of their ceremonies and stuff like that, whereas the Leander followers maybe not so much. And he says, and then of course there's the old gods, and a lot of like the old people who were like around here before, like we all came and settled. They still follow these old gods, and a few of the newer peoples have like adopted their ways. I think, to be honest, if the Leander lot and the people who follow the one true god could ever like stop sort of sniping at each other, then the followers of the old god might be in trouble, because they're like a lot more different, you see. But I think those two spend so much time sniping at each other, they haven't really got time to like turn their attention to the followers of the old god. So I think they've probably done all right out of it. But to be honest, my motto has always been live and let live. If you're not causing me any problems, I don't care who you say your prayers to at night.
Fair enough. And tell me, is there many followers of the old gods in New Zealand?
He says, "Oh yeah, there's a fair few." He said they've got a shrine there to him.
Ah,
But big statue, big like cloaked fella.
okay. The judge, he's called.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Like I say, I'm not really like religious myself, but like I say, I mainly say Leander because, well, that's what I grew up with back in Rowley. So
Yes.
I go to church when I can. I try and live a good life. You know, if that's not enough, well, that's unfortunate. That's the best I can do. I've got to look after my family and my farm. I only leave so much time for praying. It's all very well if you can afford to spend all your time praying and doing whatnot, whereas some of us have got to like work the land and actually like get down to some hard, honest work.
Yeah, you don't see Leander turning those fields anytime soon, I don't think.
That's it, exactly. The way I see it, like the gods are just there to give you a little bit of an extra boost and a little bit of extra comfort, you know, when you're at a low point. But I figure the rest of the time I get along fine without them. So whilst I'm not planning to get on their bad side if I can avoid it, you know, I mean, why would you? But most of the time I just do my thing. I look after my family. I try and be charitable and live the best life I can. I figure that's what more could a god ask for? I figure any god that wants more of you than that ain't worth following.
Speaking of charity, we don't need yours, so I'll, get 10 gold for him for his trouble.
He's like, well, thank you, very much appreciated. But yeah, the charity's fine. To be honest, it's nice to, much as I love my family, it's nice to speak to some new faces, and pass the time of day. He sort of leans in and like his voice lowers, but then he says, "Well, don't tell the wife," but it gives me an excuse to like slack off mucking out these animals for a bit.
Fair enough. And is there many homesteaders between here and New Zealand?
It says not between here and New Zealand. No, as you get a bit further round the coast, and near, most of them are nearer to the river. But
okay.
You'll find like odd little farmsteads scattered hereabouts. Since New Zealand's been a bit more fortified, and well, the Lady of the Towers has been keeping the coast a little bit safer, more people have started to settle here. And what with trade being so good for New Zealand, and there being so much necessities and whatnot you can get there, a lot more people are starting to settle there. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me in the next few years. I mean, I'm no like planner or anything like that, but it wouldn't surprise me in the next few years if you start seeing like more, if you start seeing more little villages crop up here and there, and more like expansive farmsteads. Especially now we know that like if everything did get, the worst came to the worst, we could always retreat inside the walls of New Zealand, and we'd be like reasonably safe there because they've got guards and whatnot. So I think the area is a lot more attractive now to the settlers than it used to be. So well, certainly it's for people like me. We're just looking to like settle down and live the simple life. I've done my time like on the battlefield and stuff like that. I've had enough of that now. I just want to try and make what I can of like the years I've got left, because you never know when it's all going to be taken away, do you?
No, you do not. Well, let us leave you to your work, and we will call in again should we ever come back this way.
As you're all saying this, Quentin, you feel like someone like tugging like the side of your like shirt, and you look down and there's like a small blonde girl sort of next to you, who's obviously like walked up behind you and gone like, and she looks at you and she's like, "Oh, are you a soldier?"
Hey, no.
She says, "Oh, I've heard my father tell stories about all the soldiers he served with, and well, you've got all this shiny armor and all these weapons and whatnot."
No, I'm an explorer.
So, what's that?
Means we go to the places no one's been to yet.
She nods, and then says, "Have you found anything exciting? Any adventures, or have you fought any monsters?"
Oh, fought plenty of monsters.
Oh, what sort of monsters?
Rock monsters.
And you sort of regale her with tales of like the monsters you fought, and her eyes are like getting like wider as she's like hanging on your words as you're like telling her. It's like, this is obviously like the most exciting thing she's like ever heard, other than like her father being like, "Oh, during my days in the war." She's probably heard all of his stories like a million times, and then you guys have rocked up and you're like actual adventurers, and you're like, "Yeah, I fought giant rock monsters, I fought vampires. What of it?" And she's obviously very impressed by the tales of your guys' bravery, and at which point the farmer William looks over and he says, "Oh, if she's bothering you sir, just shoo her away." He's like, "Alice, don't go bothering the nice gentleman there."
All right, all kids are curious.
He says, "Oh yeah, more than most. I'm just hoping it doesn't get her into trouble as she gets older." I've tried to get across to her. She thinks all these old tales I've got of like battles and whatever. She thinks they're all exciting, and everything's a game when you're that age. I've tried to get across to her that like, yeah, okay, it's exciting sometimes, but it's also dangerous and scary. But you know, like, you can't tell children. What can you tell them? He's like, "Go on, Alice, go on."
It's dangerous and scary, but
Well, yeah,
sometimes, and for some people, that's the attraction.
quite true. So go on, Alice, get inside. Go and help your mother out. And the young girl looks at you, smiles, and then she scampers off back into this little farmhouse. Okay, what do you guys want to do now?
Let's go home.
Yeah. Should be moving on.
Okay, and as you say that, we're going to take a sort of 15-minute comfort break here. You know, use the facilities, refresh your drinks, etc. We'll start off again at past. So we'll be back in about 15 minutes.
Cool.
I know.
Should have told that farmer to start growing some garlic.
That's it, the miracle plant.
That's it, mate. You need to grow two things. What? You need to grow some of this tobacco, and you need to grow garlic.
I hear there's a future in old adobe and garlic.
That's it. Brock will buy all your garlic. It's okay.
That's all died out, surely. That's all gone now.
Never too careful, Brock. Need that garlic in your life.
Oh no! If he finds some, he'll get some definitely. I might be able to grow it a bit easier now. The weather's a bit better.
Yep.
If anyway,
Imagining Brock going to war covered in garlic, but
yeah, if you're going up that north place,
need some pure garlic essence. I'll just crush this bulb with my bicep.
yeah, I can see that as a new body spray or deodorant roll-on. Essence, the garlic.
Garlic, the barbarians.
So,
There's a good advert there somewhere.
we're going to cut back to the campaign in like 20 years' time, and like Brock's like a garlic perfume seller millionaire.
Garlic baron.
I call it garlic for men. That's what you
I'm
need,
just
man.
thinking
You know those old like glass like perfume sprays with the thing on it. You
Yeah.
need some of them, like crush a load of garlic in it. Like,
I'm waiting to find out the Sage is still alive and he just presents Malcolm with a bill when we turn up.
well, taking into account back pay and current interest rates.
Mm. That's where all our money went. Haven't built anything at all.
If you get that, there's actually less of the village left, and it's just like one really grand house with like queer.
Yeah, it's just one massive house with coins spilling out the windows.
Made out of rhinestones.
Oh dear.
I know time's passed, but I don't remember there being a disco ball in New Zealand when we were last here.
That's it.
Like Queen
And
had
there's
like a
something
white
just
disco
right.
suit, John Travolta style.
More like disco stew, mate.
Yeah. All right.
Hmm.
We were just speculating about whether you when you bounce up to New Zealand, the first you're going to see is like Quaylak, like giving you like a bill for like his back pay.
Oh,
10 long years I've been waiting for this paycheck, you bastard.
Yeah, I'm not so sure he was that healthy when we left, though, was he?
He's pretty old.
Yeah. He was struggling to get about a bit then, wasn't he?
So I'm gonna need to find a new background for the stream, because like having all this like snow falling behind everything's like not really that appropriate now.
Has it just turned to rain, though, or is it something else?
How are you guys finding the point crawl stuff so far?
I mean, we haven't used it too much yet, obviously. But it was the colours were the how easy the terrain was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically,
That's the speed you can.
yeah, the green nodes are like a distance of like 6 miles between them, and they're open terrain.
6. Oh.
Yeah, the yellow is a distance of 4 miles, and it's slightly difficult terrain. If you see any red ones, they're like a distance of 3 miles, and they're very difficult terrain.
Yeah.
But obviously, because of how it affects your movement, effectively, you can always really, like an average party, will be able to travel like 4 nodes. Because obviously, like although it covers less distance, your travel time is reduced. The more the distance you can travel is reduced based on what terrain you're going through.
The colours are just closer together for the darker colours.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, obviously you don't have to travel your full allotment, but
No.
how many segments you travel through determines what dice are rolled for the random encounters. So if you do 2, it's like a D6. If you do 3, it's a D8. 4, it's a D10. Anything more than that, it's a D12. And you roll out one of those dice for each node you've gone through, and you get a 1. There's like a random encounter.
Mm-hmm.
Is roughly how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're all back. So presumably you guys are continuing your travels towards New Zealand.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So the first day you travel around the coastal path, and as you reach this area, you see there appears to be like another sort of pathway that is leading further into the wolf forest, which I will display now. Basically just an alternate route.
Is that fairly well trodden, is it? Right.
Yeah, again, it appears to be fairly well trodden. You expect, given that the hunter you spoke to previously was like, oh yeah, they make a good business in them wolf pups at New Zealand, that there's probably a number of like trails that are regularly used by trappers and hunters. This seeming to be one of them based on like your examination of the area, but there's probably also tracks left by like the animals, given like the size of the wolf pack that's moving through the area. It's extremely unlikely they don't have sort of well-travelled trails as well.
Did we see any little huts of any of these hunters and trappers and stuff on the way?
Oh, I'm just about to make a. In fact, I'll tell you what. Why don't you roll for this? Because it'll come down to like random encounters, basically. So, would you roll me 4d10, please, Brock?
4d10.
Indeed. And basically, we're just seeing if any of them come with a 1.
Not on that roll.
Okay, so no, you've not come across anything particularly noteworthy aside from this like secondary trail as you've been moving. In the distance, I mean, you can't see New Zealand proper, but in the distance, sort of over the rise, you can just catch sight of what appear to be the very tops of 2 square stone towers, which must rise pretty high into the air, given that you can see them.
Yep.
Before we go in there, I think there's a couple of things we need to just stop and consider, because I've been thinking about them.
Okay, and you guys are settling down in the evening as you're having this conversation. You all need to eat a ration. You can all regain 1d3 hit points. But yet, as you're setting up for the night and you're working out your watches and whatever, you are free to discuss whatever you see fit.
So, obvious things. We've now got 2 of these swords. Malcolm's got a green one. Weimar's got a sunny one. What we've done seemingly for us yesterday has happened sometime in the past here. Going back to things I'm aware of that we had on the boil, so to speak, Malcolm made a deal with the Jenny. That's obviously a deadline we've missed. So there's potential fallback from that straight away. the changes to the village, so to speak, they're at the moment inconsequential to what has happened. Malcolm, have you heard anything else from the fairy woman since doing what they asked?
No.
Because obviously I'm aware now that we've done something they wanted to happen. So again, there could be potential fallback or kickback from that, from themselves. So what I'm thinking is, I know it's home, but what kind of danger are we currently bringing back with us?
I think the hag, Jenny Green Teeth.
Yeah.
Our deal, or my deal with her, was that she would leave the village alone and we would do this deed. And if the deed wasn't done, she would continue to harass the village. So I don't think we need to be concerned on that front. That all these years later that she would be looking for vengeance, because that was one favor in trade for another, and she didn't get her favor, which meant she's no longer obliged to give us ours. The fairies, they got what they wanted. They should be happy.
Yet a fate doesn't really go together.
True. Yeah, and I guess we need to know where they sit in this new world.
And obviously we need to remap what we know, because what we know is no longer necessarily true.
Yes, and then we have to, the farmer indicated that Mercy Dixon is paranoid as a result of the betrayal of Lord Brannan.
Which is something you foresaw coming? Somebody foresaw coming?
I guess we always believed that he had killed the previous lord. And I guess we knew he was doing sketchy stuff in the mountains.
We knew we had that orb thing.
Which orb thing?
There was
the orb to control the dragons or something like that.
The orb that in the vision he was intending to use to, I suppose, infuse himself with the orb's power.
That was confirmed at the meeting, wasn't it? That they had the orb. So I think we know who the dragon is that's living in this Withen Mountains that was discussed. I can't imagine the bounty having continued since no one has had any success finding us for 10 years.
Yeah, my guess is the pirates have other bigger problems.
Scurvy, probably.
But I think we might need to be careful with Mercy.
Yeah, and also there was that pirate that had the dark blade.
Oscar.
Yeah.
So, John,
yes.
Putting a hand on the hilt of the sword, I'd like to think at it. Is there a way that you can tell which way your soul missing compatriot is? Meaning the Nightblade.
Yes, I believe it's I believe it's somewhere to the northwest, but the sense I have of it is very faint. Like perhaps it's inside something, or it's underground, or something like that. But definitely to the northwest of here.
And I'll, let go of the sword and I say, sword says that the Nightblade is somewhere to the northwest. Maybe far away.
At least 4 days travel.
Yeah, it says a bit over half a week away, at least.
We definitely need to stock up on rations and
Yeah, but I also don't.
arrows and
I think we need to find the lay of the land and the politics.
Yeah.
I don't know that we should instantly start running after the sword. I think it's a whole new land. The religions have changed. The politics has changed. It might be useful for us to understand more about the players and the factions in play. Try and find ourselves some money and set up a base and rather than just
but at least we've got confirmation it is around.
yes.
do we know exactly what will happen if we get all three?
I don't think so. We've seen a lot of art and visions about that sort of thing, but if I had to go based on those, I'd say maybe if we get them together, somehow release whatever that was used to make them. I don't know, that might be...
Have the two swords been in close proximity yet? I mean, proper close.
I mean, you've not sort of like touched them together like one to twin powers or anything, but they've been fairly close to each other. You've all been travelling together.
Yeah. And the sun sword has not mentioned anything since we've attained it, has it?
It's not mentioned anything specifically about the Greensteel.
Have you tried talking to the green sword, Malcolm?
No, because it's a sword.
That's right.
Well, you say that, Malcolm. But my sword talks to me.
So you tell us.
But yeah.
Well, let me put it this way. I talk to my sword.
I've
also seen you talking to rocks.
It's very nice rocks.
just thinking maybe it's worthwhile trying to find out if there is another consciousness, since Weimar believes his has a consciousness.
I'd offer it to each and every one of you to check, but I know that would
I'm
not
not
end
putting
well.
that sword ever again. Thank you very much.
that would be a terrible idea. And I know Brock wouldn't touch it anyway. So
It's corrupted your mind. I don't need it to corrupt mine.
oh no, the war did that. It's
Well, it ain't helped.
And as you're all saying this from across the clearing where you have made your camp, a figure moving silently, none of you heard it approach, like barely seems to like make a sound at all, but is dressed in the brown hooded robes that a priest or perhaps a friar might wear, sort of steps silently out of the trees and stops maybe 10 feet away from you guys. It's not wielding a weapon or anything like that. Its head's down, You can just about make out some features, even though they're like cast in shadow because of this hood.
It might not be a wielding weapon, but I'm definitely going to grab hold of my dagger.
Yeah, that's fine.
Will you join us?
The figure walks around to like the logs, you know, that you sat on, standard campsite layout, sits down on one of the logs, and as it does so, he pulls back his hood, and there is a figure which Brock and Quentin don't recognise, but Malcolm and Weimar, you recognise the figure of Brother Lomas. Looking much as he did last time you saw him before his untimely demise.
To my feet, and I'll I pull out the sun sword. Just
Yeah, so this guide comes out, and to you guys, he's just like a slightly like fat like friar. Sits down, takes his hood off. He looks all calm and chill. And as soon as he pulls his hood off, like Weimar's up with like his sword out.
don't
Relax there, Weimar.
don't take this the wrong way, but I'm going to need you to tell us who you are, what you're doing, where did you come from, where are you going right now. And I'll with my like other hand, I'll reach into my pack and I'll just grab one of the dozens of garlic bulbs, and I'll get it and just start crushing it in my hand.
Yeah, the pungent smell of garlic and the
I've got the fist of vampire death now.
indeed, as you see like the juices running down Weimar's forearm. The figure still has this sort of beatific smile on his face, holding its hands up like that. You see it doesn't appear to have any weapons. Sort of stands up when you say, "Oh, I'm going to need to know who you are, what you're doing here, etc." Begins walking very slowly with its hands held up like that towards Malcolm. It doesn't make a sound as it moves, not even the rustling of fabric.
I'll do this to like sprinkle the garlic juice at this figure.
Yep, you splash some garlic juice towards it, and it appears to have no effect. And as you watch, you see that the drops of garlic jouse actually seem to like pass straight through this figure and like land on the floor behind it.
I'm looking at everyone else and just shaking my head.
Yeah, I'll be standing up at that point and drawing my weapon. If stuff's going through it, that's not natural. That's,
But both you and Lan are on your feet, like weapons out, like ready to go. It continues again, the same smile, like peaceful smile, never leaving the figure's face. Continues to walk slowly to Malcolm. As it gets sort of like a couple of feet from you, Malcolm, it stops, again still smiling. At which point, it sort of lowers one of its hands and it points at the sword that you wear at your side.
Okay. So I'll put my hand on the sword. And I'll take the sword out, but not in like an aggressive Weimar way, but more in I'll hold it out towards him.
Yep, you hold the sword out towards this figure that may or may not be masquerading as Brother Lomas. The figure smiles. It doesn't reach out to touch the sword or anything. It just smiles and nods.
Okay. I'll offer him the hilt and see if he takes it.
The figure doesn't reach out to take it, but it seems to find this quite funny and laughs. Although when it laughs, like no sound comes out, but you can see it like.
Okay.
And then it's sort of like, still with a smile on its face, like shakes its head slightly, and it sort of just makes a gesture like that towards the sword, like almost like it's trying to push it back towards you, but like never actually touches the sword.
Okay. And he nodded when I took the sword out.
Yep.
Okay. And now he's just. So if I'm holding the sword out to him, he's just kind of looking at me again.
Yeah, he's
is
just
he?
sort of looking at you and sort of going like that, as though he's like, he would be like just sort of gently pushing it back towards you, but he's not actually touching it. He's just sort of going like that.
Okay. So. Okay, so I'll just, I guess, continue to hold it out like this and just kind of wait and see what he does.
After a few moments, the figure sits back down, still smiling, sits back down on the log where it was sat before, turns to like face all of you, and it's just sat there with a smile on its face.
Okay. I wonder, Weimar, if we could ask your sword if they can speak to my sword, and find out what's going on.
Yeah, so I'll point the sun sword at the Greensteel and think at the sun sword. Like, can you reach out, perhaps somehow?
Well, yes,
This,
of course I can.
I fear that whatever this is rather beyond my and Malcolm's ability to navigate.
Whatever what is.
There's I suppose an apparition.
No, there isn't.
Are you sure?
Yes, of course I'm sure. I've slain many a grisly creature of the grave in my day. I know a filthy foul and dead when I smell it.
I wonder if you're going to need my eyes to see this. If you can't. You'd be welcome to take a look.
Okay, well, if you insist, and you gain like a brief sense of like the energy of the sword moving through you, but you're quite sort of in tune with the sword. You've held it for a long time, so it's not uncomfortable. It's just an odd sensation.
It's going to possess my eyes only.
Pretty much, it's more sort of like you get the feeling like as you're looking at this that like there's someone stood like just behind you, so like you can like feel their breath on the back of your neck, but obviously you know there's no one there. At which point the sword's like, oh, I see. Yes, that thing you're seeing. Well, I don't really know how to explain it, but it's not actually there.
Yeah, I sort of gathered that when the garlic juice went through it. But
what has it been doing?
Gesture.
Hold on a second. This is disorientating. Let me give you your eyes back. There we go. That's better. Now, what is this? Let's call it an apparition for sake of ease. What has this thing been doing?
It's making movements at Malcolm and the sword. And I think it's trying to communicate something, but I don't think we can necessarily figure out what this is, because it's not, as you said, an apparition proper.
I've got a thought. Just give me a moment, and then you feel like the presence of the sword like receding, and then a few moments later it comes back and it's like, yes, just as I thought. The apparition you're seeing, that is the sword.
I'll say with my actual physical mouth to Malcolm. I was like, sword saying that that's the sword.
Can it speak to it?
I don't think so. It can barely tell that it's there.
Okay.
Yeah, the sword's carrying and talking to you while the sun's sword, and it's like, well, yes, you see, because we're all different fragments of the same whole. We all communicate in different ways. So whilst I this is the same for all, even lesser enchanted blades. We all communicate. I can communicate with you psychically, I suppose you might say. It appears as though the Greensteel is communicating in a visual way by creating a figment, if you will, that it can interact with you with.
I'll say to Malcolm, sword's saying that you're not going to be able to talk to the Greensteel, because the Greensteel makes this. I'll sort of gesture at the apparition.
Okay.
The Greensteel makes this pantomime show.
Yes, if I was to hazard a guess, said the Sun Sword, I would guess that whilst it could probably hear and understand its wielder, perhaps it doesn't have the finely attuned methods of communicating back that I have. I would, if I had to hazard a guess, I would guess that it's reached into its wielder's mind and selected an image which he associates with goodwill and peace and comradeship, and it has manufactured this figment out of this image so that it would not appear threatening.
Sword says that the Greensteel wants to be friends, and that's why we are seeing this now.
Okay.
But it's not going to talk, so
Okay.
whatever it has to tell you is going to be like this. And
Okay.
as we sort of, or at least I, having seen some of the paintings and whatnot, and the visions, the swords are in fact a fractured whole. And Quentin, you incidentally, I think there's probably something to be done once we have all three. On that note.
So if I sit down across from the former Brother Lomas,
Indeed, the artist formerly known as.
I will ask, can you understand what I am saying?
It smiles and nods.
Okay. Is there anything I can do for you?
At which point it holds its hand up like this, and you see like another little sort of like phantasm appear, sort of hovering over its hand. You see three swords. They all sort of slide towards each other silently. Then they all seem to merge together. They transform into like a little sort of shining spot of light, which like shoots upwards and then towards the sky and then disappears.
Okay. Okay. Well, we have some tasks to complete, but certainly in the near future, we will certainly do everything we can to find the third sword, so that you can be
Figure notes.
Returned to your full self.
The figure
Sooner.
notes.
The sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned, so you don't have to torture yourselves like madmen.
Well, listen here, Brock. They were talking about the land heaving, mountains coming up, going down. I think we're probably going to look at a similar, if not even more drastic event if we have the three blades, and I suppose we're going to have to break them or melt them or something like that in order to, get whatever's in there out and maybe into a hole again. That seems like it would be a very, very big event to me. So
At least the lands may return to normal
that's true. That's true.
once a
Something to
curse
keep in mind.
has been left.
Yeah. Anyway, well, that's good. Anyone want garlic? Look at the crushed bulb in my hand.
I'll have some.
And as you say that, sort of like instantly, like the figure of Brother Lomas just like disappears. It's there 1 second and it's just gone.
So I'll give you a couple bits, Brock, and
Oh yeah, I'm getting used to that stuff.
yeah, we've probably been using some of it as rations, like some jerky and some fresh garlic and cloves and them. Yum yum.
Well, you know what they say, a clove a day keeps the vampire away.
Yeah, it does. It does. And eventually, you are half garlic, half person, so
Indeed.
you're safe.
And that is how Brock became enshrined as the inventor of garlic bread. As he took on a vampire with just a few cloves of garlic, some butter, and a baguette. A double-handed baguette, obviously, he's got standards.
Yeah.
Brock's Bakery. In his retirement, he's going to be dual wielding, some
But dual needed.
some dough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys camp for the evening. Obviously, rations, hit points, etc. as normal. There's no further phantasmal visitations from the Greensteel or anything like that. And the next morning, the sun rises over the horizon. You are nearer the coast now. There's a fresh sort of coastal wind with a tang of salt air wafting across, make things a little bit more chill early morning, but like compared to that previous Valkonnen weather, it's still warm. So, what do you guys want to do?
I think get to New Zealand.
Push on, it's in sight.
Okay. Quentin, can you roll me 4d10, please?
That's how many direwolves ambush us before we go.
That's how many vampires are hiding in the bush.
Oh yeah. That's true.
9,
Direwolves
1,
come
1,
up.
9.
Okay. Just have a quick look at that. Boom, boom, boom. Of course, there's the moment where my computer's like, no, I'd actually like to be terribly slow now, John, if you don't mind. So you travel for about 4 hours. Nothing of particular note has occurred. You're travelling along the coast. You're seeing the top of these towers getting closer and closer. As you're into like the second sort of 4 hour chunk of your day, effectively still following the coast around because the terrain's the easiest to follow. Like I said, the looming prospect of these two towers and New Zealand getting ever closer. As you're wandering around, you see sort of sat not too far away, sort of on the coast, what appeared to be 2 men. They're wearing like long sort of like waxed jackets. They're wearing like big tall boots like waders. They've got fishing nets next to them, a couple of fishing rods, sort of like they're basically on like a sort of shallow sort of beach on the coast, and they're people like dangling their rods in the water. They've got a few fish they've caught already in the next to them. As you're sort of like passing, one of them like gives you a wave.
Wave back, I think. Since we're heavily armoured group, try not to scare people.
Yeah, they seem a little bit puzzled by your sort of slightly strange appearance. When you wave back, they seem to relax a little bit, and the second one like gives you a wave as well. And you even like shout out. There's still a bit of distance away, so the voice is a little bit faint. And he's like, "Morning to you, strangers. Where are you heading?"
Hours.
He says, "Oh, you're on your way to New Zealand, yeah?"
Yeah.
He says, "Oh well, safe travels to you."
Cheers, mate. How much for some fish?
He says, "Oh, just a couple of silver would do him."
Yeah.
He says they're not the biggest, unfortunately. This isn't the best spot for fishing, but
I'll get Quentin a couple silver and get some for me too. I really want some fish after all that jerky.
yeah. So you give him like how many fish do you want to buy? Like I say, it's a couple of silver per fish.
I give him 2 gold, and just get lots of fish because I'm fed up of eating dry bread and crackers. And
Yeah, they give you a load of these small fish, or like pilchard sort of style fishes. Effectively, it equates to like 4 days' rations worth of fish. And he's like, takes the coins. He's like, oh, thanks very much. He's like, now you either want to eat them pretty sharpish or get some salt on them, or you don't want them going bad or the smell something terrible.
Oh, I think we're going to wander about 2 hours up the beach and then fry the bastards.
Oh, yeah, you're fine then. He says, I was just seeing your packs there, and I was thinking, don't be like putting them in your packs and forgetting about them. Oh, I did that once. It took me a month to get the smell out.
No,
I can imagine.
Yeah.
He says, anyway, thanks very much, strangers. Safe journey to you.
Have a good one.
And you guys obviously continue on your way. Unless anyone else has anything they want to bring up with the fisherman.
No, I think we're good to go.
I think we're just all thinking, something that's not crackers.
Yeah, something like half fresh.
Yeah, man. Okay, no problems. So you continue your journey onwards.
We will stop about halfway though, just to eat these fish. So get Malcolm or Brock to start a fire. And then we can all just sit there eating fish and staring at the sea.
Yeah, no problems. You sit in a sort of little bay area, because there's like this shallow beach here. You set yourself a fire going. You fry up these fish. They fry up quite nicely. You eat these fish. As you're sort of eating these fish, you hear a voice and you see like a figure coming down the beach towards you, and there's a guy wearing like furs and like leather. He's got like a bow like unstrung over his shoulder, and he says, "Ho there," he says, do you mind if I stop and share a little bit of your food, strangers? Hunting's been a bit lean recently.
Eat the fish. Just don't talk.
He's like, oh, right you are, and he sits down and like tucks into a bit of like whatever spare fish you've got going. So for this day, none of you can just like cross off like a ration each from your fish. So effectively, you'll have had all of your fish at the end of this day, but you don't need to twitch your other rations. Yeah, this guy sits down. He looks, as you've asked him to, Quentin. He doesn't say a word apart from just like, oh, thanks when you like give him some fish. He's obviously dressed like a sort of hunter type. You know, he's got like the fur-lined boots, the furs, etc. He tucks into his fish. He stands up and he says, "Right, well, I'll thanks very much for letting me share food. I'll be on my way. But can I give you a couple of coins at least to thank you for it?"
Give me some information.
Oh, okay. Well, if I can.
Who's the captain of the guard in that town?
He says, "Oh, what? In New Zealand?"
Yeah.
He says, "Well, as far as I recall, it's a man by the name of Francis O'Brien."
And what day's market?
He says, "Well, Sunday normally."
That's great. Unless any of these three want to ask you a question. Thanks for your company and being quiet.
He says, "No, not at all. Thanks for the fish." So do any of you guys have anything you want to ask the hunter before he gets on his way?
No,
Leave him to his own.
Yeah, so long.
Yeah, he thanks you all again for the fish, and he's obviously following the sort of coastal route that you've just come down, and he heads off. Okay, it's evening as you round the coastline and you gain your first sight of your once homeland, your home village, New Zealand. You see two large square stone towers, one either side of the mouth of the Great River. The borders of New Zealand have grown a fair bit larger since you were last here, and you can see that whereas it was described as a stone wall, it's not actually a complete stone wall. it looks to be the original wooden wall, but there's various like scavenged large pieces of stone have been sort of like pushed up against it as like extra reinforcement around the edges. You can see just over the wall, you can see like the tops of like houses, like thatched roofs, etc. Stuff like that. You can see there are men stood on the wall, the battlements, such as they are effectively. You see they're all holding like muskets and various black powder firearms. They all appear to be wearing sort of like these like three-pointed hats. They're wearing like dark sort of like long purple coats, like a bit of embroidery on them. And you see they're all sort of like stood there sort of like scanning the horizon, obviously looking for potential dangers, presumably, to New Zealand. You see there's at intervals there's like a couple of like sort of wooden gates built into the walls.
Oh, there we are.
Well, let's see how welcoming they are.
As you
I'll let you figure that one out, Brock.
as you continue moving up, you see that the gates that you've spotted appear to be open. There's like people going in and out of them. You see there are like a few of these like soldiers / guards with firearms stood at the gates, and they're obviously like checking out people as they walk through, but they're not like stopping anyone or like questioning them or anything like that.
Until Wymore pops through with his silver shiny armor.
Oh!
One thing
Yeah.
that Brock, make me a D6 roll.
D6. That would be a 3.
Okay. One thing you do spot that's like a little bit odd is, as like I said, the guards aren't stopping people as they walk through the gates, but you notice there's another. It's like a robed figure, maybe it's a priest, sort of wearing dark purple robes, and he stood there holding what looks to be like a metal stick. It has like a metal ball with holes on the end of it, and as people are walking through, he's sort of going like that and like waving it over people as they walk through, and occasionally you see like drops of like liquid come out of this like sensor that he's waving about.
Does it give off any strong odour, this stuff?
You're not quite near enough at first, but
Oh, right.
as you're like mixing with the crowd and presumably heading in, you're like, it's like garlic I can smell.
It's good to be home.
Oh, someone's got to it before me. Someone's stolen my essence of garlic.
And this priest stood there, and as people walking in, occasionally he's like, "Oh, blessing of the gods on you," and he's like shaking his censer about, and occasionally like a few drops of liquid come out, and like people are just walking through like it's perfectly normal. Like drops fall on, and they're like, and they just carry on through. So you're guessing that this probably happens like a lot, because like people are like, "Oh my god, what are you doing?" You're like spraying your garlic jouse on me. They start walking through.
Yeah. Well, as we walk through, I hold my hands out and try and get a few drops, splash it on.
Yeah, the sort of like the robed priest smiles at you, and he like deliberately goes like that with it over your hands till you've got like a little pool of like garlic essence in your hands.
Yeah, I'll give it a bit of an aftershave,
There you
tap on my face. Nice.
You splash it on a bit.
Yeah.
The priest sort of like makes a strange symbol in the air with his censer. A few more splatters go out, and he's like, "Blessings of the gods on you, my son.
Yeah, I'll just give him a nod.
May the fragrant essence of the gods protect you from all harm."
Yeah, and I'll try and walk in then.
Yeah, no problem. You walk in, and as you walk in, followed by your companions, presumably, unless anyone wants to do anything with the garlic priest on the way in.
No.
No. You get a few sort of like raised eyebrows and odd looks, well, particularly from the guards due to your manner of dress, but like you're not actually causing any trouble. You're not just walking in with weapons out, so they're like, all right, you're dressed a bit funny, but it's not the worst thing in the world. You walk in, and the first thing that meets your gaze as you walk in is a large central statue of a hooded figure holding a set of scales in its outstretched hand. A huge, probably about 7-foot statue that towers above you. And written on the So carved into the plinth base of this statue is the legend, "Judge not, lest ye be judged." And that is where we're going to end the session for this evening, guys. As you stride into New Zealand, sprinkled with the righteous garlic of the Lord, and you see this huge statue of the judge, perhaps the fruit of Malcolm's earlier labours. We will find out next session. Thank you very much for playing, guys. I hope that was okay for you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Okay, obviously we'll sort out XP and whatnot shortly, but for now it just remains for me to thank my wonderful players and to anyone who's watching this either now or in the future, and hopefully you'll join us next time for further adventures in the garlic infused world of Smoke and Snow. Take care.